today's video, we're going to talk about Satoshi Kon and discuss some of his works as a director. He's one of the greatest directors to ever grace the anime industry. Some of you may have heard of the works he's created, such as Perfect Blue and Paprika, but if you've never seen his works, you may have seen movies that were influenced by these two respectively. Namely, Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, and Inception are a few examples that took inspiration from certain scenes and plot points in Perfect Blue and Paprika. In less than 10 years as the main director, he's created 5 amazing pieces, 4 of which are feature films and 1 being a TV series. Each one of them is critically acclaimed and unique in their own way. Satoshi Kon's directing style is one of a kind and is presented on screen differently compared to many other anime directors. So what makes Satoshi Kon so special as a director? Well, the main aspect that makes him stand out is his thematic implementation, blending fiction with reality with individuals living different lives. Whether it's their private versus public life, their acting career onset versus offset, or their conscious versus subconscious personality. To give you a deeper understanding of why Satoshi Kon is such a genius, let's take a look at his first feature film, Perfect Blue.
Get down!
It's not your typical horror film. The topic it presents is not traditionally what you think of when horror films come to mind. There's no monsters or the supernatural, just a battle between you and your former self. And that's what Perfect Blue depicts, the struggle of an individual dealing with psychosis. The story follows Mima, a pop idol turned full-time actress, struggling with distinguishing between her real life and her acting life as events occurring around her are deteriorating her mental health. Perfect Blue, being Satoshi Kon's first directorial project, is more impressive because of it being in the horror genre. You rarely see anime as a medium really excel at being terrifying. No one within the industry wants to touch this genre. It typically fails most of the time when anyone tries to tackle it head on. Although there are a few individuals who do specialize in it and have found success, those are rare exceptions. It's been over 15 years since the release of Perfect Blue, and its story has gotten more relevant in today's day and age. With the growth of social media and its accessibility, anyone can really be a mini celebrity. Their fans can develop parasocial tendencies towards them, which is only a small portion of what Perfect Blue takes on as a film. The imagery and editing of this film is what makes watching it multiple times a unique experience. Take a look at this scene for example. The way Satoshi Kon laid out this frame, slowly panning towards Mima reading about a post made by a fan describing her day-to-day life in such fine detail that it almost felt like she wrote the post herself. And the tension in this moment starts to build and build on top of itself until it starts sinking in for her, where she starts realizing what actually might be happening to her. And along with a combination of the intense music, the repetition of a single phrase, and the red background, it symbolizing her slow descent towards insanity. Satoshi Kon is a master of transitions, making it seamless and hard for you to trust what's really happening on screen. The further you go into the film, many of Mima's acting scenes and her daily life starts to blend in with one another. The brilliance of this is the way it slowly builds up towards the climax. He makes you, the viewer, think one way and immediately changes your perspective in the next transition. There's so much more that can be said about Perfect Blue, but me explaining it doesn't do it justice. You have to go watch and experience it for yourself to understand why this movie is so revered. The second film that Satoshi Kon directed is Millennium Actress, a much more tame and light-hearted film in comparison to Perfect Blue. The story follows Chiyoko, a legendary actress past her prime who's retired and lives a secluded life out on the countryside. One day she agrees to do an interview with 2 filmmakers to create a documentary reflecting about her career. She decided to join the acting industry because she met this mysterious man who she has no recollection of at all. No clue what he looks like and doesn't even know what his name is, but for her it was love at first sight. She hoped that one day she would get famous enough to get recognized by that individual in order to meet him again. Out of the 4 feature films Satoshi Kon has directed, Millennium Actress is my personal favorite. The brilliance in this film is like many of his other films, the way he blends in multiple realities. In this case, it's her life being interwoven with scenes from her acting career. And during certain scenes, you kind of get this feeling that what she's recalling from her memory is being mixed between these realities. Like she herself during the interview is having a hard time recollecting her past life. There's no indication to whether it's her acting career being displayed or what's actually happened to her outside of the big screen. And some characters you won't even notice whether they're her cast members or actual people she's met in real life. This aspect of Satoshi Kon's directorial style is loved by many of his fans, but it also confuses them at the same time. Satoshi Kon never really tells a straight line story. There's not a single solution he's trying to convey to everyone. With most of his works, he wants people to interpret it in many different ways. Another reason why this film is my personal favorite is the way Satoshi Kon displays her life story. There's little to no commentary from the actress, it's just in the lens of a movie, like you're watching her in the cinema yourself. herself. This would seem like a simple flashback if not for the two filmmakers appearing in her memories as if they were actually there filming it themselves. At the beginning of this film, you're introduced to Chiyoko, and the only thing you know about her is that she's well respected and legendary in her field. But throughout the movie, you start to learn more about her, and slowly but surely, you start to admire her character. And by the end of the movie, you start to feel nostalgic like you've watched her since you were a kid. At least that's how I think someone would feel if they watched the documentary made by the two filmmakers. Out of all the 4 feature films Satoshi Kon has directed, Tokyo Godfathers is the most grounded in realism. But even though it's grounded, it still has that Satoshi Kon flair to it. When you watch this film, you might not think that there's Satoshi Kon's signature blending of realities, but that isn't the case. The story follows a group of 3 homeless individuals, a middle-aged alcoholic man, a transgender woman, and a runaway teen, each having their own troubled stories. But on Christmas Day, when they were searching for presents in a pile of garbage, they discovered an abandoned baby along with clues to find the parents. For someone to watch this film for the first time, I would assume that they would be inclined to think the movie was about finding a home. But this film isn't only about people without a home, it's also about people without a family. Our protagonists aren't unhappy because they're homeless, but because of the loss of their relationships with their former family. And throughout this journey they embark on, they rekindle those lost relationships through many of coincidences. Event after event, miracle after miracle, and this could be better explained by the title of the movie, Tokyo Godfathers. The meaning might not be as straightforward as you might think. It can easily be interpreted as 3 homeless people becoming the godfathers of the baby they randomly found. But why Tokyo? Is it just because the events and miracles are taking place in Tokyo? That might be the case, but I think Satoshi Kon had a deeper meaning to it. During the time the movie is taking place in, Tokyo itself is in prosperous times, but even in times of prosperity, homelessness is born and prevalent. But it's because of this prosperity that they are supported by their environment and those around them. And throughout certain scenes in the film, you can see the building structures resembling faces, almost as if Tokyo itself is watching over them. Hence, Tokyo Godfathers. So it might seem like all these miracles occurring are coincidences to our protagonists, but it's the city Tokyo as a character watching over them throughout their journey and maybe helping them along the way. Paprika is the most visually intense and appealing movie Satoshi Kon has directed. You can tell within the first couple of minutes into the film that the use of color palette and imagery is leaning more towards the abstract and mind-bending side of what he usually does. And like most of his other films, it's a tough movie to follow along with. It's a sci-fi detective story that follows a couple of key characters, namely Paprika and Dr. Chiba. One of my favorite things that Satoshi Kon does within this film is how he blends in the dreaming world with reality itself, where as a viewer you can't really tell if it's a dream or not for certain scenes until he pulls you out of it himself. And along with the dreaming world, he also portrays some characters differently as well. The main depiction of this is obviously Paprika and Dr. Chiba, where Paprika is more carefree, cheerful, and adventurous compared to Dr. Chiba, who is a more serious and composed character. You can clearly tell with the scenes Paprika is in being more in line with bright and warm toned colors. Even her appearance itself falls under this description with her bright red shirt and auburn colored hair, while Dr. Chiba is the complete opposite with more dark and cool tone colors. Satoshi Kon doing this imagery splitting people in two between the dream world and the real world stems from our subconscious as human beings. For example, showing the struggle of a woman with who she wants to be and who she currently is, both of which are part of her identity, but it's her inability to embrace the two together. This is one of the many themes that Satoshi Kon tackles in Paprika, and to me, this film is the culmination of all the works that Satoshi Kon has done packaged into one. Out of his entire discography, I would say that Paprika is the one movie that represents him the most as a director. It's the combination of the messaging, the imagery, and the editing all in one that if I had to give someone a description of what Satoshi Kon's style of directing is like, it would be this film. But make no mistake, this man's entire discography is a sight to behold. Go watch each one of his feature films yourself. Experience the genius that is Satoshi Kon because there might never be another director quite like him.